Thrawn's motivations and characterizations developed a lot throughout his various appearances, including differences between how he's portrayed in books written by Timothy Zahn himself. That topic could easily be its own pretty long video, but today we're focusing on one element of Thrawn, being his motivation for joining the Empire. Thrawn doesn't join up with the Empire until his discovery by Voss Park after his exile from the Chiss in the short story Missed Encounter, set shortly after the declaration of the Empire. But Thrawn and Palpatine had actually met 8 years earlier in the Legends timeline, in the year 27 BBY, sometime between Episode 1 and 2, during the events of the novel Outbound Flight. Outbound Flight in-universe was a Jedi-led project to colonize and explore elements of the unknown regions and leave the galaxy. It was made up of 6 Dreadnought heavy cruisers arranged around a central storage core, filled with many years' worth of supplies. When the vessel reached a planet, a Dreadnought would be able to detach and establish a new colony, all while sending back information about the mysteries of the unknown regions and space beyond the edges of the galaxy if it made it out there. Unfortunately, it did not. In the novel, Palpatine, appearing in the persona of Darth Sidious, dispatches a Trade Federation task force to destroy it. Thrawn finds that task force and destroys the task force instead. Kinman Doriana, one of Palpatine's most trusted advisors who was in charge of the task force, then puts Thrawn in contact with Palpatine. Palpatine advises Thrawn that Outbound Flight must be destroyed in order to prevent it from achieving its goal of leaving the galaxy, on the chance that it could fall into the hostile hands of a species known as the Far Outsiders, later known to be the Yuuzhan Vong. If they were captured, they'd be able to give the Yuuzhan Vong more information to prepare a possible invasion of the galaxy. Ultimately, Thrawn recognizes the elements of a power struggle here rather than solely being about galactic security, between the Jedi, whom Sidious and Kinman Doriana are saying control the galaxy, and Sidious's loyalists. Thrawn, as a Chiss, would not have been particularly interested in those internal politics of the Republic, and he seems skeptical at first about Palpatine and Doriana's claims about the Yuuzhan Vong as well. So him agreeing to stop Outbound Flight, effectively violating Chiss law by engaging in a preemptive strike against a Republic asset, would have required significant supporting evidence. While Doriana and the Republic had a few pieces of information about the possible Vong threat, like the disappearance of a Jedi named Vergir, whom they suspected to be in Vong custody, it's a big burden of proof. Ultimately, what convinced Thrawn of the veracity of the threat is revealed in a later conversation with Kinman Doriana. The Chiss had already fought the Yuuzhan Vong over half a century before the Yuuzhan Vong War would take place, and this is really the foundational element that allows Thrawn and Palpatine's partnership to grow in the future, leading to him becoming the 13th Grand Admiral, as well as the Empire contributing some of the materials to set up Thrawn's secret Empire of the Hand. In the book, Thrawn mentions a recon force fighting with ferocity against a Chiss fleet led by Admiral Ar'alani, and that much of the official Chiss involvement in the Outbound Flight events came from a suspicion that the Republic may have been allied to the Yuuzhan Vong. The Essential Guide to Warfare actually expands on this a bit, giving locations for more than one engagement between the Chiss and the Yuuzhan Vong, places named Von Hana and the Twilight Void at the edges of Chiss space. We have a few different references to inhabitants of the galaxy coming across entities which may have been early Vong forces beyond this, probably most famously being Canderous Ordo, mentioning the rock-like ships they came across in Knights of the Old Republic. But it seems like the Chiss may have been the earliest known group to come into direct, repeated military action against the Yuuzhan Vong. I still have issues with how Thrawn and Palpatine's characterization and motivations with respect to the Vong are handled, but it is nice to see how some of these mentions are able to be brought together, tying in information and events from different eras, which is why I wanted to make this video for today. A lot of the time, different stories and periods from Star Wars tend to feel like they lack a through line, and while I definitely wouldn't want every single thing to have to tie into every other single thing, and sometimes with the Yuuzhan Vong stuff in particular I do think that goes a bit far as well, but I generally appreciate when we get these bits of connective tissue through it. Especially with Timothy Zahn's work, since he usually avoids trying to tie in this kind of information or characters or events from other authors. The Chiss are actually especially interesting in the category of fighting off other threats to the known galaxy, because the Yuuzhan Vong aren't actually the only place this happens either. I've covered in a prior video how the Chiss were involved in an unknown war against the Siruvi, and this is something that the New Republic, who are also fighting the Siruvi, only really discovered once they reached the Siruvi capital planet of Luek, where they essentially found Siruvi civilization in shambles after the Chiss offensives. Whether these were actually from the Chiss Ascendancy or from Thrawn's Empire of the Hand is a bit less clear, but it's still something that we do see a couple times. Either way, that's going to do it for today. If you've enjoyed, consider leaving a like or subscribing for more. And if there's a topic you'd like to see me cover on the channel, let me know in the comments.